Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Kay Domo, and I am part of the MMOA crew by the Institute of Clinical Excellence. Before I start, I just wanted to give you guys a little plug about our upcoming courses. Essential Foundations begins April 26th, and Advanced Concepts begins May 4th. And MMOA Live, we have two double headers coming up. So next weekend, March 18th to 19th, we'll be in Cincinnati, Ohio, and Fayetteville, North Carolina. I think I said that right. And March 25th to 26th in Pauley, Pennsylvania, and Baton Rouge, Louisiana is where Dustin and I will be. So now to get into the topic of today. I am talking about the idea of Memento Mori, which means remember you will die. I know this sounds kind of grim, but I promise you it's not. But before I get into the idea of this, I was reflecting on a patient I was seeing for a few months who was in his late 90s. He was starting to become really fearful of the idea of going back to his usual activities, like taking a walk and having lunch with his friends, riding his bike outside, because those are things that he really enjoyed. He was definitely improving. Like he was able to walk a little bit more. So we started to have a discussion about him returning to some of those activities again, because he hadn't seen his friends in a while, because he's just like, I don't know if I can make it through like a walk with them and going to lunch with them. And we also one day trialed him getting on and off a stationary bike at the clinic to make sure he was confident enough to ride his bike outside. He started to go on walks outside again and to see his friends again. And he was also regaining his livelihood. He was telling me that he was so excited to get on his bike again because he hadn't done it in so long, because he was afraid that he would fall off, or like he just, yeah, he wasn't necessarily feeling happy because he wasn't doing all these things that he enjoyed. So I didn't really realize how big of a deal that could be, that he was regaining his livelihood. I only saw him a few more times, and we were actually getting ready for him to continue on his own. He even bought himself a kettlebell so that he could continue working on deadlifts and other exercises. And a few weeks ago, I found out that he passed away. I had a really hard time with this news because besides his back pain, I just didn't really think that day would come anytime soon as I worked with him. It was a hard week. I mean, I definitely had to take mental health day to process it. It took me, I got to reflect on the fact that the end of his life could have looked a lot different. Like, he could have continued to avoid his usual routine and not enjoy the rest of his life. And I know not all of our patients can just return to everything like they once did, but I think it's really part of our job as physical therapists to help them realize like what they're capable of, what they can do again. If it's something they haven't done in a while, try to mimic it somehow in the clinic so that, they might be able to ride their bike again outside. We're pretty much hope dealers, and we've talked about this before, but not all healthcare providers can give their patients hope. Some of them have to give them grim news. Some of them tell their patients that they can never run or ski again. And if you're a healthcare provider, I really want you to reflect on what tests and measures do you do, and what just activities do you mimic them doing, that you go through with your patients to assess their readiness to return to certain activities. If you're drawing a blank, then I would definitely urge you to reconsider your request for that patient in front of you if you're telling them not to do something. Life is meant to be lived, and if we're spending our time telling our patients what not to do, to constantly be careful instead of giving them guidance on what to do, we're doing them a disservice, and we're preventing them from truly living their lives. So if we go back to the saying of Memento Mori, if you've never heard of this before, it's a saying rooted in Stoicism that reminds people that life is to be lived at this very moment, and with the reminder that we all have to die at some point. It's something that we know is a given in life. So instead of coddling your patients, um, give them the tools they need to live the life that they want. The first time I encountered this phrase was from reading a book called The Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter. In the book, he speaks about his experience in Bhutan, where their culture embraces the idea of death, and you can pretty much see it all around their country. Unlike the West, it's not something that they hide. Um, they don't even hide it from the kids. They kind of all just embrace the idea of death. In Bhutan, when someone passes away, there's a 70 or 49-day mourning period that involves certain rituals, pretty much to ensure that the deceased has a smooth rebirth. And on days 7, 14, 21, and 49, after the death, the loved ones of the deceased do prayer flags and perform rituals to ensure that the deceased has a smooth transition into their new lives. And during these 49 days, the corpse is kind of treated as it is alive, they're still like being offered food and given company. And for a nation that thinks about death a lot and have these like really like big rituals, it's kind of cool to see that they're also recognized as one of the happiest nations. Because instead of avoiding the inevitable, they're embracing each day because we just don't know how much time we have. So, just as a reminder, we work with our older adults who are looking to us for guidance to help them get rid of pain, enjoy their lives, which the second part, they may not necessarily realize what they can do yet, but it's kind of part of our job. Don't forget to guide them back to the activities they enjoy, because you just never know. Death will happen for all of us at some point, and if we continue to fear it, we'll always be willing to put things on pause. And that may mean the same thing for us working with our patients. We'll just be like, well, we can mention it next time, or let's just put it on hold till next time. But if we embrace it and we all know that our time is limited, we'll go for it. This is kind of on the same kind of, I guess, wavelength, kind of. But just like the study about how a physical therapist's belief about their own low back affects how they treat their patients with low back pain, I think it's kind of the same idea. Like, if we just think we have all the time in the world, we're probably going to put off doing certain things, like starting to strengthen our patients right off the bat. So I think our beliefs of death could also affect the advice we give to patients. A lot of the time, our medical system definitely over medicalizes things, and instead of making the life someone has worth living better and more quality, it ends up being prolonging it and making it a little, just dragging it. So at MMOI, we really embrace the idea of teaching people how to fall. We embrace the idea that to change something, we need to challenge our patients, not coddle them. So if this idea of death, the stoic belief that we have to remember that we will die, then we should not only preserve our patients' lives, but make their lives worth living. Because if we don't do that in this very moment, then when are we going to do that? So that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you for listening, and I will see you all again soon. Bye.